first up, we're going to go out of order. So the first thing on the agenda will be citizens' concerns, if we have any. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Jan. Hello, Kevin. Hello, Mark.
Hi.
I have some questions I would like to ask regarding the proposed bike path on Water Street. First of all, when the city applied for this grant, was it approved by the federal, state, or local governments? 2, did the body which was connected approve the grant? 3, if the grant was approved, what was the deadline for the completion of the project? And 4, was the city required to complete the project before receiving money? And by the way, I forgot to give my address. Deborah Bourne, 125 East Front Street, Perrysburg, Ohio.
Thank you.
You got it.
Did you apply for the grant, Brian?
The grant was applied for in like 2009, 2010, so that was a little bit before me.
And myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was through TMCOG.
I know it's through TMCOG. But it wasn't an impression
There are meetings that happen every quarter with TMCOG and keeping of the progress, and they've not set any deadline for us. And in terms of if city council approved the
We did
grant,
approve it. I know that.
I would assume, because it's usually a TMCOG requirement.
And there's probably no deadline.
I'm not aware of the deadline.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did all you guys have a chance to review the June 22nd meeting?
Yes, no objections.
Let's send them on to council. Discuss qualification architectural engineering. Oh, you want to wait and leave that one last? Or?
It's up.
Okay. Architectural engineering and awarding bids. So, I think really some of this is covered by ORC or Ohio Administrative Code.
Yes, and for ORC sections, I think, and OAC section. So what we've done is instead of handing over copious amounts of I put this together on these 3 sections and sent it over to Brian and had him look at it and confirm my reading of the Outerwest Code. Our actual practice has that. So we just see a little bit of specifically what the conversation was. We thought we'd go through our selection process for architects and engineers, how we award bids, and what would follow for prevailing wage. So under the selection process for architects and engineers, I referenced the code sections of the Ohio Revised Code that apply. And what we currently do is biannually, we will pre-qualify architects and engineers in various categories, meaning wastewater, roads, traffic studies, water lines, sewer lines, buildings, inspections perhaps, construction inspection. And I think I'm missing 1 or 2 categories. And as those RFQs come in from architects and engineering firms, they're reviewed by a group of people within the city that is most associated with that particular category. Utilities looks at the utility-related ones, engineer, service director, if you're looking at the building-wise, and we will determine if they're qualified or not qualified. So we have those on a list based on the category, the firms that are qualified underneath each category. And if we have a project that we believe the design services will not exceed $50,000, we are permitted to just select one person, one entity off that list. If it's estimated over $50,000, we do a full-blown RFP for that specific project. And we advertise it, we receive the qualifications that come in, we sit and rank the qualifications, and the highest ranked firm is selected to negotiate a price with, and then we bring it through the process of committee and council for awarding of the contract. So that's pretty standard and pretty set. When it comes to the awarding of construction bids, we follow the sections of the code noted 153 and 735. And if If we have a construction, renovation, reconstruction project estimated to be greater than $50,000, we publish notice, which includes the engineer's estimate. We have the plans and specifications available to any prospective bidders on a website or a program that Brian set up upon his arrival, which is Bid Express. The bids are opened electronically and tabulated electronically at the date and time specified and published in the notice. And for a bid to be considered valid for the city of Perrysburg, we have always noted that the bidder must have A, submitted the bid timely, B, that it is not over the 10% mark of the engineer's estimate. They completed all the forms, they provided the required bid bond or bid check, they provided proof of compliance with BWC, and they are not debarred by the state of Ohio. And once those bids are reviewed, we select the lowest, most responsive and responsible bidder within 60 days of the bid date. And then for prevailing wage, we are essentially following Ohio Revised Code.
And let me make clear that if we're using TEMA card money, that is state and federal, so we will be filing prevailing wage law.
Correct. So for the prevailing wage, obviously, if it's federal funds, we follow Davis-Bacon, and if it's state dollars, we follow prevailing wage, which essentially are the same thing.
And I have a question. I know that we do not allow companies that have been barred by the state of Ohio, but what about construction companies that have been banned from ODOT for a certain part of time? I can think of one company that was.
We have not utilized any list that ODOT may have.
Because I know one company that was barred from bidding on ODOT projects for about almost, I would say at least 3 years, if not 3 to 5.
I haven't mentioned that. Is there any, like, I don't know what Ohio Revised Code, I haven't really got into that in depth to educate myself on ORC, but I know in our municipal code, we don't have anything kind of safeguarding. I want to say like the city, I mean, we're just using it ORC as a base, right? Is that what it kind of sounds like?
Yes.
Okay. Because I guess, my thought was this was not to be, I'm not saying necessarily that we're doing anything wrong, but how we potentially improve and protect ourselves a little bit better. And, when it comes to, I think, construction projects, and like, Janet mentioned in particular, I don't know what she's talking about, but we don't have to talk about particular contractors, but in an instance where they may have had, say, poor performance elsewhere, we don't have really anything in our code or it's not in Ohio Revised Code to disclose any of that information, is it? Or how would we know if
It's not required in the Ohio Revised Code or in the either on the state side of the Ohio Revised Code or the municipal side of the Ohio Revised Code. There is nothing stated that I'm aware of that they are mandated to provide that information.
But we did have that company that we wouldn't go out there, we wouldn't take their bid.
We did not deem them the most responsible.
Right. So there's a little bit of, if we can justify it, we don't.
Correct.
And I guess, I'm asking, you both handle this stuff quite frequently, and to better protect ourselves, I don't know if there's anything we can do legislatively, whether it's, OSHA compliance, I think drug testing, things like that might be included, that we can kind of go above and beyond Ohio Revised Code. I guess my goal isn't to get it too selective where we don't have people bidding on it. Do you think eventually if we're going to continue engaging in this discussion that we may be able to give you a nice platform?
Yeah, well, one thing that we did since I got here that I brought from Finley is I had a review form for the contractor that after each project, the front was an evaluation of the contractor. I'd fill that out, send it to him. I'd have a place for him to sign off. Sometimes they signed it, sometimes they didn't. But then I also had on the back a spot where they could review the city so we could know where we would improve. That doesn't necessarily allow us, one time may not allow us to skip a contractor, but it helps with the documentation that if we have problems with a contractor and we have it documented and we say, hey, yes, you're the lowest, but we don't think you're the most responsive or the best, we're going to skip you. If they don't like that and there is a lawsuit, we've got the documentation there as the reason why. So that's one thing that we're trying to do to make it a little easier.
Yeah, because I guess I'm kind of thinking too, in the instance, I think, I don't know if you'd mentioned, I don't know if you reflected, or this contractor, if those are a reflection of their poor performance, but I'm even thinking along the lines of potentially like tax liens, anything else like that, or any maybe.
That is one of the forms, I believe.
In fact, it was a tax.
They completed the bid packet, I think,
Yeah,
the tax lien.
Yes.
it was a tax lien.
Yeah, that is part of the bid packet that they have to complete.
Is that just for prevailing wage or?
No, that's for all
That's
of
for
our
all cities?
projects.
It's delinquent taxes, yes.
Okay.
Which reminds me, when this project they heard about, we did surveys on, and did that type of exit survey on our contractors, and some of them take them very seriously and tie bonuses and pay, emotions to those. I didn't realize it because to me, nobody deserved a 10, and I wasn't giving 10s out and I got a call. But that's not a bad idea, to make sure we do that. That's good. There's no justification.
Yeah, because I'm just, anything that we could potentially request up front, because in an instance where you may deem somebody non-responsible or not responsible, right? That if you kind of mentioned a lawsuit, we can probably toughen our language up to help prevent that. Is kind of what I have. It's kind of a stirring around my head not mentioning that. Would you see that being able to, like, legislatively helping you? I mean,
I'm not sure what you would actually legislate.
well, I'm just saying we don't have anything right now in our municipal code, and if this is all that is in Ohio Revised Code, this doesn't give us any out. I mean, I could say someone's non-responsible, but that's very subjective. What are our reasons for that, right? And they could challenge that, they could challenge that and say they decided to sue the city, right? I mean,
It's happened.
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, in the instance of, like, if we had a language up front, these are your qualifications to do this type of work, would that help alleviate some of that?
Well, if we have the documentation as to why, then there's no problem.
I mean, because since I've been here, we've not really, and obviously Brian, you've only been here going on 2
A
years.
year.
I don't believe we've really run across many contractors where we ran into problems. I can think of one in the last year that we struggled a little bit with. But other than that, the 10 years I've been here,
We had that one that we didn't take their bid.
Correct.
And they had the lowest. And
Correct.
we had the
but in
justice.
terms of taking, we typically always have taken 99.9% of the time, the lowest bid,
Right.
as long as they have met all the other qualifications that I mentioned. And in doing so, there's only one time I can think of that we had issues with the contractor. And that was just literally, I think, last year.
So is there anything, I guess, like, in regards to, like, subcontractors or anything like that, are they required to list subcontractors?
Yes.
They are required to do that? Okay.
And they're responsible for their subs.
Right.
If they're
Yeah, I
subs,
understand
it's
that.
on them.
And they have to prove that they're being paid prevailing wage.
Right.
Prevailing wage coordinator
They
that
do, they have
checks
to do
payroll
certified payroll.
Okay.
and does an interview.
I guess I'm thinking in an instance where there's a battle between the subcontractor and the general contractor, they say don't pay the sub and there's a lien placed on a particular portion of the
Well,
same.
and we don't pay the subs, we just pay the general.
subs.
I understand that, but us being the owner, I believe the lien can be put on particular, wherever they're doing the work.
They'd be doing it.
And what was the scenario again?
Like, say a general contractor would hold payment from a subcontractor and there was some disagreement as to the amount of work performed or the particular scope, maybe they didn't perform up to the general contractor's qualification. The general contractor withheld payment, things like that. And then the subcontractor, and I don't know, I know I've heard of this, not a lawyer, but I've heard of them putting liens on particular buildings and things like that.
I don't think legally we'd never have that ability because we don't have an agreement with the subcontractor. We
It
have
would
an
be
agreement
with
with the
the
general.
Yeah.
But I can ask our water director that question.
I haven't heard that happen before.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened somewhere.
I guess, yeah, again, those are kind of some of the things that are just kind of stirring around in my head that I know, I mean, Ohio Revised Code law covers state that this stuff to me pertains to the state, but it doesn't necessarily, it protects, doesn't necessarily protect us or city council or the administration. I don't feel like we don't have further language in the code, but that's just something that's my personal opinion. And that's the only reason I hold this open to engage in this conversation. Not that it's attacking you guys in any way. I feel like everybody does their job, I think, very thoroughly. I just want to make sure if there's any way that we can create a better environment to alleviate some of that burden and to make sure that we're, the taxpayers are getting the best bang for the buck.
Well, I have a couple questions that I'll follow up with the law right now.
Okay.
And Brian and I can put our heads together and think if there's things that, maybe tools we think we're missing.
I mean, it doesn't hurt.
And I will take a look at the ODOT list you referenced.
I've looked it up.
Are there any requirements for, say, like managerial or, we just, like, someone in particular, like running a job site or anything like that, or the requirements in the code for, someone that might be running the job site or,
I'm not aware of any.
qualified?
No, that all falls under the general contractor.
Yeah, it's almost micromanaging.
Okay.
Unless it's a project of such a scale that the city hires a construction manager in which to kind of be the owner's rep and be on site, making sure that the job site is running smoothly, the contractors are showing up, because there'll be multiple prime contractors.
Fire station.
Like the fire station project.
Or it's highly technical, like the ITT. Remember the ITT, the pumping, the pavement?
Oh, yes, where we had to
Right.
inject
So, yeah,
that solution under the road to fill voids,
that
yes.
was pretty technical.
And then as far as, we just rely on, Ohio Revised Code, or as far as like, where does for HVAC and electrical, licensing, is that, are we just kind of allowing anybody to work on those things, or the requirements and
There is
anywhere?
no requirements under the municipal code for state, either the state code that I'm aware of, or specifically the municipal code regarding requirements on whether a contractor is licensed, unlicensed. I'm trying to think, I know that there's some communities that will register contractors, whether it's HVAC, plumbing, but I think it's just a fee to register to do work in the city. They're not qualifying, they're not making a determination whether that contractor is qualified to do the work or not. But it's more of just a registration process. I think the city of Toledo does that.
That's concerning. Yeah, that's concerning, especially.
I was going to ask you, you're electrician.
Right, and
Electrician.
well, we have, when I was working, I had to have a City of Toledo license, but to work in Wood County, there was no one checking licenses.
But that's, in that partly why we have a bond.
But,
Well, if the work's not performed or performed to the standards, you do call the bond.
but there's still, all the work was inspected.
It should
Correct,
be.
Wood County does all the building inspection here. And I guess the good thing is we don't do a whole lot of building projects. We do a lot of roadway, water line, sewer line projects.
Yeah,
Well, I know but again, just things in the back of my mind, we talked about, we've got some projects, potential larger projects coming up that do involve buildings, and we're gonna have electrical and HVAC.
And I would
things
strongly
like that.
recommend a construction manager be hired as well for a project of that size and scale.
Thank you for watching.
And again, I'm just kind of trying to hone in on how can we upfront protect ourselves from something that, may go wrong in the future or anything like that. I'm not a contractor, and I know you too. I think the construction contractors probably know their contracts in the game a little bit better than, I know they know better than myself, but,
When it comes,
good work.
In Michigan, they had to be statewide. I had to have a separate license for Michigan, anywhere in Michigan, and they really checked them up there, no matter where you were. And I thought that was pretty good, actually. Now, in Ohio, just the contractor has to have a license, but the journeyman don't.
Individuals.
Yeah, the individuals do not have.
when it comes to roads and that type of thing, you make them adhere to ODOT spec, don't you, which is pretty strict. It's very, I mean, it's very detailed and strict as to what you can and cannot do. And any deviation from that is, you can not pay. But it's good that we talked about it.
Well, I have a list of about 5 questions here to follow up with the moderator.
Okay,
Thanks, Bridget.
let's move on to awarding pavement markings.
Yes, so I have hard copies if anybody doesn't have them.
Yeah, can I?
One of it.
No, I already know.
And I apologize for getting these out later than we wanted to, but the law director left for vacation on Friday, and the bid opening was actually Friday. So, yeah, I don't know.
I got it.
Is this thermoplast?
No, it is all paint. There's no thermoplastic in it.
Is it because they're like, is it like, because it's touch-up?
No, it's redoing pavement markers.
Yeah, it's touch up of stuff that's faded.
That's my question, because if we're gonna do, because in my opinion, if we're gonna do, and I'm looking at the quantities and it's not a lot. I mean, it is to some. To me, anything with thermoplast is kind of useless. Unless you do a touch-up.
I'm sorry. I'm finding a cold in my ears. It's still kind of plugged up, so
I'm told I have a quiet voice.
Nope, that's okay.
I prefer thermoplast over water-based. It tends to last longer. Wouldn't you agree?
If it's put down properly,
Exactly.
yes. There are also some council members that don't like the thermoplastic on the crosswalks,
That's me.
which I thought you commented on
In the
that
rain.
also. So
Yeah. In the rain.
I think another councilman has also.
The two of us who run. No, I was just curious. And for touch-up, it's stupid to use thermoplast because of the way they put it down.
right.
So okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that's also for everything that's in the city. The service department plans on doing the crosswalks around the schools. They told me that part. So that part we won't be doing. If they have time, if they can follow up with other stuff elsewhere, that part just won't be performed by this contractor. So we listed everything to get a price for it, and then they're only going to actually get paid for how much they put down. So there may be, and I don't have it for me, there may be 100 miles of center line, but if they only put down 90, they only get paid for the 90. It's just there to establish the price of it.
I see the service department was out just in the last few days doing some crosswalks.
Some of them, yeah.
What about the, one of these bids is 154, and I noticed you, just going back to our previous conversation, you said if they're 10% over the engineer's estimate, that just is thrown out, or so that one was never, just thrown right out.
Even if they were the low bid, yes, we could not accept that.
Okay.
We would have to reject all and rebid.
Okay. How about the sharrows? I didn't see that in the list.
Chevrons?
No, the bicycle arrows that they're called sharrows. We did.
Wasn't there a?
There's a bike crossing.
I see bike crossing. I don't know if that's true. But that's not.
I've never heard of
That might be performed by, originally
That's
they
a
were
little
performed by the
bicycle
service
symbol they
were-
put on the
yeah, So
pavement.
we have the stencils.
Yes.
Sharrow.
Sharrows.
I've never
Yeah.
heard of it.
You share the lane.
Yeah.
It's an arrow that tells you to share the lane. It's sharrow.
It looks like a chevron with like a bicycle.
Yes. So I know that when we first did them a couple years ago, the service department had that. So
Yeah.
I take it that's gonna.
I got that list from them, so if that's not on there, then I would
Then they
assume
plan
that
on-
they're doing that.
Okay.
And the contingency of 5%, just for changers, that's just standard language, because I can't think of what
Oh, it
could go wrong.
It wouldn't go wrong necessarily, but we may discover that there's more that needs to be done
Oh, okay.
than
Yeah,
Could go more, it could go less.
I'm working off a list
Okay.
that I have,
Mhm.
but I don't know when the last time that list was updated. That's something that I'm currently working on, and I'm hoping to get done before next year.
So the contractor will keep very good data on what they do.
Yes.
And then we'll know the next time.
They have to.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah, okay.
They have to they have to use calibrated machines.
Yeah, so there are times where,
A lot
since
of
I've
people
been
don't know
here, that I've traveled down a road and said, hey, I thought we were out doing pavement markings. This road wasn't touched. Oh, let's add it to the list.
Gotcha.
It's just,
So hopefully after this project, we'll have a
Right.
updated list.
And a lot of people don't know that they have to use calibrating machines when they put to measure how much you put down. And you don't have any of these white lines on curbs, do you?
White lines on curbs.
You don't need white lines on roads.
oh, you mean edge ones?
Yeah, edge lines.
Oh, yeah, you don't put edge lines with curbs, no.
Is there an outline? Did we get an outline, like, of the project itself? I don't know if we did. I'm kind of wondering, this isn't every line in the city,
This-
right? This is.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it is?
yes.
Yeah.
And then,
Okay.
and then they'll go
Alright.
through and determine if it actually needs to be touched up or not.
Okay.
So we'll only pay for what actually gets touched up.
So this number is every line in the city, essentially?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So in the case of having to approach that 5% contingency, it's probably almost looking like the other one.
More than likely, but I always like to be prepared.
Okay.
Normally, I try to use a standard like 10%. So knowing that more than likely we wouldn't be doing all of that, I cut that from 10 to 5.
Okay.
But I do always like to ask for something just because, stuff happens. I hate to find, like I said, I've been here a year. I'm working off the list I was given. I hate to find out there were 5 subdivisions that were added that weren't added to this.
Right.
Now that probably wouldn't amount to much. It'd just be some stop lines, but it would be something. So
And I believe we at council asked contingencies be put into these projects anyhow, so.
yeah.
What about our state routes that are going through here? Those included?
Those are included, but they probably won't. I mean, we go through the streets and look at them. Some of them ODOT has already touched up, so we won't touch them. So it just kind of depends.
And we are asking for this to be an emergency, only so that the contractor can get in September, October to get the work done before temperatures drop below 50
This is a
for paint adhesion.
very temperature sensitive job. And humidity.
I learned that from Brian today.
I'm sorry.
I knew about asphalt, I didn't know about paint.
Oh, yeah, paint's very.
Well, even with the 5%, it looks like they're right there within your estimate. That's good.
And this contractor, did I hear you say that maybe before the meeting, we don't have a history of any of these contractors? We do.
We do. This contractor was purchased. Griffin Paint bought out Zimmerman Painting.
Okay.
Zimmerman Painting did it for years for the city.
That name I
Last year, ARL, American Roadway Logistics,
yeah,
I think it is, they happened to get it. They were the second place bidder. So we've been familiar with both of them. It was just this one. It was under a different name and different ownership at the time.
Okay.
They're both good companies. Never heard of the third one. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So Griffin, we've done work with them before, so you're saying too,
Zimmerman.
and Zimmerman.
We've done work as Zimmerman, who is now Griffin.
Okay. Was Griffin a separate entity, or, I mean, prior to, or they just kind of change ownership?
They just purchased them. It was a different painting company.
Okay.
The
So
company,
they
that
were already
company's
operating.
been in business, they're out of Columbus,
Okay.
so they acquired another company to add on to their business.
The housing was very good.
So most of the people, I'm assuming when they get here and do the work, the foremen, the people actually doing the work, are probably the same people that were here 2 years ago when they were doing the work for the city, 3 years ago when they were doing the work. It's just different name on the business cards and the trucks.
you were budgeted at 130, so pretty bad.
It's significantly under.
I have no objections.
Permission to purchase hydro seeder.
Hydro seeder, so the hydro seeder quote came in on Friday as well. So, I apologize for that. I think I have, thought I had copies here. Did I hand out copies already?
You emailed copies.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know I have an email.
Good, because for some reason I didn't make a bunch of extras. But anyways, about a year ago, we received a quote for this hydro seeder so we could add it to the 2022 budget. And since that quote came in, we got a new quote, and that quote is $7,000 more than we budgeted. So it's a quote that's of roughly $47,000. And we only had $40,000 budgeted, but we were under budget on the shallow roof project by $43,000. So we were hoping to ask council to slide some of those shallow roof dollars over to this hydro seeder. And this hydro seeder will be used not just by the service department, but also the utilities department to do landscape restorations in the right of way. And I think you have both quotes, both the original quote and the new quote.
Looks like it could pay for itself in 4 years. But boy, that, you say that original budget, the original quote was 36?
Yes.
Same, from the same company, exact same
company,
model?
Same model.
Wow. Well,
Yes.
that's,
And
5 years. It's 5 months, it's gonna take an extra year to pay for itself.
yeah, we were a little surprised at the.
Any training involved for our staff?
Yes, yeah, training will come with it.
That'll come with it?
Yeah, when they deliver the machine, they'll do like a demonstration. And I think a couple of our folks actually may have demoed the equipment ahead of time to help select the right model.
And we always done seeding in the right of way, currently.
No, I mean, we've done, when we do it, when we do it, like if we have like tree removals, stump removals, we'll go back in and by hand, we'll do seeding. But this machine makes it much more efficient, and you use a different product, so you can get a better finish. And you have better coverage, because you mix in like the fertilizer and everything.
Yeah, that's
And you
nice.
blow it in.
That's the nice thing about it, is the fertilizer's mixed right in, and you don't have to do all that stuff separate.
How often do you think we'll be using this, or how often?
Oh,
Will we get our-
utilities have over the course of the last several months still been tackling the right-of-way restoration for projects and water line breaks from last year, so they're still doing restoration. And we have crews that are out still doing stump removals from tree removals that this machine would be utilized on, so it's constant.
How large is this machine?
I
Is
do
it a
not know.
I know, I see with Dave Henry's machine.
It's on a
that's-
trailer,
Oh, is this?
so,
Okay.
so it'll attach to a pickup truck.
This is
pull
a
it.
truck, okay.
Yeah, it says it's gonna include the tower, guardrails, discharge can, electric hose reel, 150-foot hose, 1.25 or inch and a quarter hose.
Okay, yeah. Still got room to store, a new building, it's be stored in there.
That is the plan, to either rearrange that or actually pull it also in over winter where the garbage trucks are. Do a little rearranging, that they would like to keep everything under a roof.
Is this the only, like, say, retailer or seller for this particular, like, item? Or how do we do our shopping? I know some of the stuff, like with the state, there's like, the state recommended.
That's a picture of, trailer.
Yeah, I've got the tank.
Yeah, pull arm.
Yes, all right, thank you.
Typically, the service department will have either Rob, Ron, or Greg do research onto different makes and models. And if they went out and, I'll say, test drove any of the models and make a selection, especially since it's under 50,000.
Oh.
If it was over 50,000, we would have gone out to formal bids
Okay.
on it.
It's just, man, it's a lot of money that thing's got up in a year's time.
Oh, thing is, what's
it's gonna be next year.
Yeah. And this is, you think this would be more efficient than like outsourcing this or having, I guess like another company come in, say in the fall and hit all the spots, like kind of like we're doing with the paint? Having a contractor just come in and do this all in one shot?
I've not done that analysis.
Okay.
But I know there are times where we get calls asking when their right of way is going to be restored in front of their homes. That can become a
Waiting for them to be
Waiting.
available, is it?
right.
Not to mention the
Especially
low
in spring and
prices,
fall when they're busy.
not to mention mobilization prices they charge you for doing piecemeal work.
But I don't believe we've looked into that
I'd be curious.
option. Let's write that down.
It's not an emergency, or do they want it for this season, for this seeding season right now?
I
September's the
believe
best time to
they
see it.
have asked the law director to put that, to ask for it as a emergency. And I can find out the exact reason.
Keep that
why.
price and the availability of it
That's
is.
most likely is because of the pricing.
Yeah.
But I can certainly find that out and relay that back to the committee.
Is this budgeted?
Yes. But at $40,000, based on last year's quote.
How much was that for with the roof?
43,000.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry for asking some of the questions that are, it looks like some of the stuff's answered in here. I just didn't have, we got it late in the day. And I,
Yeah,
You
same
did
here.
get it, you did get it late in the day, and that was my fault. As I mentioned, I forgot to include it when I sent it out originally.
Okay.
Any questions?
No. I think it's a good purchase. It's a good piece of equipment to have. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of use out of it. Well, if it's taken good care of, it'll last a long time.
It would be a good resource for the utilities department as well.
Yes.
What do you think, Tom?
yeah, I think if we can, so what's the, if say public utilities is going to use that too, what's the, because of like funding sources and stuff like that, do we ever would we be able to pull that and use that?
We've
So,
never,
like, time
we've
or
never
revenue.
internally charged water and sewer funds for use of other equipment, because there's times where we borrow their equipment on the general fund side.
Okay.
So they'll use some of utilities equipment to do certain projects and then return it to utilities.
We're not gonna try to keep this true.
Yeah, it would. I don't know.
No, I
Specifically we
didn't
get
know.
into that, it
I
just,
didn't either, so thanks for asking that.
because I can imagine them using it just as much.
No, I agree. So I'll send it out to council.
No objections?
I mean,
Okay, do you wanna go with the ADA or the multi-use?
The multi-use path is I'll say a quick discussion. It's more of me sharing a map that we put together, we being administration, several of us, several years ago, and then updated it rather recently. And Brian was actually part of that conversation. And so this went to the Recreation Committee a couple of meetings ago, and Recreation Committee thought it would be a good idea to share with the Service Committee, since a multi-use path is kind of like a Janus to it.
I have two, because I'm special.
Of course you are.
Yeah, that is appreciated.
So we had, and I'm also going to get this in a PDF, and I can email the PDF to you as well. So this is what we put together, and it denotes color coding, what's in place, what's under design, what's in design by the engineer versus external engineering.
This is great.
What's a potential ODOT project based on knowledge that we have, what we have grants for that has not been put in yet, what TMACOG's proposing as a state bike route, what's currently listed as a US bike route. And then the gray, the light gray, that is what we would propose administration as looking to the future to make sure we have multi-use paths on those particular roads.
You know what really gets me is, do you know how much money is set aside by the feds in the ICT acts for multi-use path that probably never gets used?
Well, we're certainly ready and able to apply for funding. There's a couple roads on here that,
And I know why Rick wanted us to look it over, so we make sure we get them attached to any of our projects.
so I don't think anything will be very surprising.
No. I would love one day to be able to get on the slippery element, run follow, and go all the way up to Falk and let them off.
You know what ODOT closed that divergent diamond over here on 20.
Correct.
That all included a multi-use
Yes.
path. And
I'm not sure what that project is at in their world, but we wanted to include it as a reminder that ODOT was looking at that.
yeah, and
And they recognize the value of getting people under or through that interchange.
it works. This one works great. I ride this a lot. My bicycle.
Oh, on the
Virgin
GTI?
Diamond, yes, and it's perfect. You know, even my grandkids ride with me, and they feel perfectly safe up there on that. So that's worked out real well. The nice thing would be to get this connected from
Yeah.
the Caronade one over to Roachton. There was a way to make that happen. Yeah.
I think even getting anybody from over there to the,
Anywhere.
up Louisiana.
Yes.
I know when I was out in that neighborhood, speaking to residents last year, that was a major concern for
that's
a
a
lot of
tough one
people
right
that
there.
want to go visit the uptown area or
It's,
Country Charm, things like that.
It's a difficult one. We've had
That bridge right
conversations, I think twice
Yes.
since I've been here in the past with ODOT about them doing something with that bridge. And as of right now, they have no appetite.
That's not on their schedule
No,
to review.
not on their radar.
Are there any plans like for, I'm looking here in like south on Dixie Highway here. Is that Roachton Road, looking at the green?
That is Roachton right there, yes.
Yeah, that purple leads to Roachton. That's
Are there any
The
like,
green is,
in your design right now, isn't it?
well, the green is, if you're looking at Roachton Road, and you're going south of Roachton,
yeah,
at this point, we have it in gray as something proposed to get down to 5 Point, where 5 Point is being proposed by TMCOG to the state to be a statewide route. But we don't have anything in the works yet.
have you ever rode that, Mark, on Roachton or, I guess I'm
Yes.
just kind of wondering,
Yes,
how's
I've
the
ridden that
crossing
also.
there? I guess is it fine?
I mean,
I guess if I
Crossing
I'm
25, just use the
thinking,
light.
it's no different than crossing up here, except the speed's a little bit faster.
Yeah. Gotta be a little more cautious there.
I actually-
Once you get on that trail, it's sure
I'm
feel
more
good and
nervous.
safe.
Yeah, I'm more nervous going south on Hope Prairie from 5 Point Stop.
And of course, I've asked this before, and I know that it's proposed that the little from Fort Meigs Road and 65 over to meet the other one.
Fort Meigs, that's it. Hope Prairie.
You know, that little-
Yeah,
that
and yes,
little
that's why we
connector right
have it-
there.
That's why we have it in gray.
In gray.
It was Hope Prairie. That road's bad.
Yeah, so how we're gonna do that one. Might have to do that on the south side of 65,
Yes, yes. Yeah, replace the sidewalk that's currently there with the multi-use path, and then take it up to the corner of the next road where it turns into a
right? No
multi.
curb cuts along that
Correct,
section, so
Right.
that seems like a good spot.
much easier project
Yes.
than trying to take it on the north side of 65.
Do you think this all this work might happen next year? Is that the plan, Bridget?
It's under design, and the Fort Meigs Road ditch project, that's still under design. and I don't know if it'll get out of design soon enough to bid in order to,
I think it was looking at construction in 24.
24, okay.
There's a lot of environmental with that too, in there.
Yeah.
yes, which,
And we have a small window because of the
right,
wildlife.
Bats.
Okay.
yes, we do, certainly.
Okay.
So this was for
Thank
your
you. This is great.
information.
I was at that rec committee meeting, I was hoping we would get a look at this.
And so whenever we get plans for construction projects, we want to make sure that we further.
Oh, yeah.
And if there's no concerns that we're hearing from city council, this then would be an opportunity for us, through Brian, to request feedback.
Yes.
And developers also, I hope we're gonna,
We work with
Work with them on-
developers, with both currently Steve Mitchell and Mark Rich.
yes, yeah,
Kevin
on
Berry.
board for that when they put in subdivision.
Some of this stuff, and I'm sure you're all probably looking at this, but I'm guessing all this stuff is in the city right away. Is that
Correct.
all of it, right? And as far as like utilities and stuff, like say we put these paths in, I don't know, say one of the power companies or, they may need to get in
If
there.
they have poles in the right of way, they're required, if they need to, if we request them to move, I think they have to move them in the right of way. If they're outside the right of way, we have to pay for them to move them, if they can be moved. But I know over by Whole Prairie Intermediate, I've seen utility companies that pull up either alongside the path or actually on the path, and they're just a small pickup truck. But these paths are usually got 10 inches of base, 4 inches of asphalt. I mean, they can handle the occasional motor vehicle,
Yeah.
utility vehicle.
Yeah, but they can't handle a truck.
Yeah, we would be taking a fire truck on.
Right. It
Full
seems
one.
to me they would have to do whatever they did if it was not, if it was standard right away. If they go, and typically, never mind. I was gonna say, the right of way utility poles, because Toledo has sometimes put them 6 inches in on the right of way.
And for repair purposes, like say they had to go in there and access some of their utilities.
If they had to
responsible
trench,
for
they would,
rerouting
yes.
or repairing.
They were responsible to replace the pavement, to return it to the, I won't say the condition it was in, but to restore it. Knock on wood, I don't think that's happened yet since I've been here.
Okay, ADA?
And we have another item which is probably a much more in-depth discussion than we have time for today. But I know several weeks ago, we sent out to City Council the two options that the engineering firm that we hired, Fishback, came up with two options to make ADA improvements on Louisiana Avenue. And I happen to have another set of hard copies just of the areas we wanted to touch base on. Let's see here, but I went a little bit past where I wanted to be. So there was two options, and I can have Brian do most of the talking here because he understands more about what this plan said than me, myself. But essentially, the two options, the differences between the two options, the second option, which is a more expensive option, has it be more of a completer looking street aesthetically, not just, tackling the ADA issues that are there, but also making it look and feel more cohesive. But it does also cause us perhaps to lose some additional space in the right-of-way that might or might not be used by benches, trees, and/or outdoor seating. But we can do a high-level look, and I'll hand out, I have a couple copies of just the two options of the pricing itself. Maybe easier to look at than something in a PDF. Notes on it. But Brian, take it away to the extent
All right.
to the extent we have time.
Kind of like Bridget mentioned, this first one's, they call it the base or option one. Basically, the thought is, what's the least amount of work we have to do to accomplish the goal which was to get everything within the right-of-way ADA compliant, or be able to get up to the doors at least of all the buildings. So the gray shaded areas would be ramps or elevated areas. All the elevated areas would have railings on them, so you wouldn't have to worry about someone falling off or slipping off the edge. The other shaded area, which I have to apologize, I got some color blindness going on. I don't know if you call that salmon. I don't know what color you'd call that. But that other shaded area, that would be the area that would actually have work done on it. And then the other part that's kind of hard to see, that has this hatching on it, that would also have work done on it, but that would be the accessible route. So what they're looking at is taking 5 to 6 feet from the edge of the building, using that if you need it for ramps, then have this 6-foot accessible route area that would have the proper cross slope to meet the ADA requirements. And then from that accessible area to the curb, that slope becomes whatever it is, which is going to be steeper than ADA, but it makes up the difference to match the existing. But you'd still have that area that you can go along the street that meets all the requirements. From wherever there's parking spots where you come up, that to get up to the accessible route would all meet the ADA requirements. But this area here would probably be steeper than what would meet the ADA requirements, but you could still get around there. So this option has a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, this option has more ramps than the other option. The other option is, what if we spend a little bit more money to make it look a little nicer, so you don't have a ramp here, a ramp here, a ramp here, a ramp here, a ramp here. You don't have people walking down the sidewalk where you have to come up here and then you have to go around this ramp and you come up here, and make it easier to traverse, make it look a little nicer. So in that option, let me see if I can pull up the same page here. Oops. That's why they don't let me run this.
I'm not a fan of that keyboard.
So this is the same page. As you see, there's no gray here, so there'd be no ramps in this section. But we'd pretty much be replacing all of the sidewalk and the parking, because by doing that, we can actually increase the elevation of the existing curb to bring it closer to the building, so that we don't need the ramp to make up for the step area. And the parking spots there have a pretty good slope on them.
They ramp.
Right now they ramp. I mean, if you're backing out, you're backing out.
Yeah.
So that would get rid of that.
Lift those up.
That would lift the curb up, so that would make it a little flatter, so make it easier to see when you back out.
Right.
It does, like Bridget said, it's more work, so it is more money. So in a nutshell, I mean, that's really the difference between the two options. They both will accomplish the same things. Option 2 will look a little nicer, but option 2 will cost more money.
Well, what we could do is we can, maybe at your next service committee meeting, go through this a little bit more in depth. That'll give you the opportunity to take a look at these pages and put down any questions you
I've
have.
got a list of questions already, but I'll just save those for the next meeting.
Let's table it for now and bring it up at the next service.
Now, do you have a meeting scheduled with the business
We have
owners?
a meeting scheduled with the business and tenant owners, and we have the Ability Center attending that meeting as well, to be the reciter of the law, if you will, and to help answer questions that folks may have.
When is that meeting?
It is
Wednesday?
I feel like it might be next week. It is. It might be the weekend. No, it is next Wednesday.
Week from today?
Yes,
10?
on the 3rd. That is at 9 o'clock.
And can I attend? Just for information, can I just?
Sure.
Alright. Okay, great. This gives us a lot to chew on, doesn't it?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned?
Any other
Oh, wait.
business? Can we?
No. No, I'm sorry. No, that's not what I meant. I meant, no, I won't adjourn the meeting.
Can I? Does that mean I can ask for
got
ask a couple
5
questions?
minutes.
Thank you. Maybe I can do it.
On the spot.
Wow. Tight. First, I want to start with a positive and say I want to thank you, Bridget, and the service department for the pavement in the alleys. I rode every alley and a huge improvement. They really look great. So
I'll pass it along.
please pass that on to the service department.
I have a picture I want to send you of a certain alley.
Please do.
Yeah, if there's there was a couple spots that they're painted, so I know there's still a couple spots that they're probably working on, but boy, they've done amazing improvements on it, and I really appreciate it. I was at a meeting that had a lot of business owners at, and they were asking about the Christmas lights. They noticed last year's were significantly underwhelming compared to years past. Why? Who determines that, and how we decorate? Because we're
The service
really
department, I think, along with one of the garden clubs.
okay.
I thought the garden clubs do a lot of that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yes, I think so, but I can follow with reference.
I mean, if you can just go back just a couple of years, and they, I've looked at some photos just from 3 years ago. It was way better than last year, and I don't know if that's something. Is that coming out of our budget, or?
Yes.
I'd sure like to see if we can get back to where we were just a few years ago, because they were really poor this past year. I don't know if it was for budget reasons or staffing reasons or anything else. It was very
Could
noticeable.
certainly be all that and the trees themselves.
All right. My last question is, we talked about this probably back in April, and about the bridge on the overpass of the expressway on Fort Meigs Road, I should say, under it, where all the graffiti was.
Yes.
You, the last I talked to you, you were going to check with ODOT. I know that you did get a word back saying, we're not supposed to touch it, even if there's graffiti on there.
Correct.
We can't go, because now
Correct.
we have a bunch of patch work on there.
And they told us to contact them, and they come out and take care of it.
Have we, and will we?
Yes, I know Ron Isaacson had contacted them about it.
Because it's still like that.
And
But they're not
I
gonna fix that.
will follow up with Ron.
Do you have any,
They're not.
do you have any contacts in there yourself that you
Make
can?
the call, but.
Says, I'm getting,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting complaints for a few neighbors out there say, just doesn't seem like they have to drive by and see that. It looks it's quite a bit of light there. Okay, I'm just passing that along.
No, what
But-
I'm thinking is we should put a camera out there and catch those people so they're doing it.
Well, just like the
Bathrooms.
bathrooms
We
and
couldn't put it on the bridge,
playgrounds.
though, because the bridge is not ours.
I know, that's the other problem. And that's the whole problem that Mark's talking about too. It's not ours, we can't touch it. They're very particular about what they want used on their concrete stuff.
We can't touch it, but we have to look at it.
Exactly.
Right, so, and our residents are looking at it and not happy about it.
And there's actually engineers at Prep, and employees that work for that, probably for that.
Sure, but
Okay.
I just think that if we stay on them, maybe we can at least get this number and we're not asking for a whole lot there.
No, well, it depends. If there's no other business, we'll adjourn.